Welcome to Mark Allen's One-on-One. We're veering a little bit from the sports today to go to the outdoors. As you can tell, we are in the great outdoors, and it's a beautiful day in northwestern Minnesota. Today, we're going to visit with Jeremy Winterovich, Conservation Officer here in northwestern Minnesota. Jeremy, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Good to have you here. Now, we want to talk not so much about the hunting seasons and what's going on right now, but we want to find out a little bit more about a CO, because as a conservation officer, you are a law enforcement officer, correct?
Correct. So I'm a licensed peace officer. I enforce the rules or the laws and regulations of the state of Minnesota, just like any other trooper, deputy, or city officer. You have to be a licensed peace officer, just like they do. So you have to go to a training academy and pass the test and be licensed, in order to do this profession.
Now, you've been around for a while. We talked to him on, you can catch him on KTRF's open line a lot of times when it comes to hunting season, because he likes to, we like to have him keep us updated on all the laws, because there are some changes in laws and whatnot. But let's go back and first off, you're originally from northwestern Minnesota, right?
Correct. So I grew up in Warren. I graduated from there. I went to school at Moorhead State, got my criminal justice degree there. And then right after college, I went and I worked as a police officer in Grand Forks for 2 years, and then East Grand Forks for 4 years. So before I did this job, I actually worked as a city police officer for not quite 6 years.
Okay.
In Grand Forks and East Grand Forks.
And just the love of the outdoors wanted to get you into this, or what made the switch?
Yeah, exactly. This is what I've always wanted to do. They pay me to drive a boat, a snowmobile, and a four-wheeler. I mean, that's pretty decent.
You can't beat that.
It's a good gig. I like what I do, but I don't have to sit inside at a desk. I can get out and check for bear baits. I go out and get on the boat and check people fishing and water recreating and things like that. So it's a nice change. Another thing that's better that I like more about the conservation law enforcement rather than just regular law enforcement like a cop is 90% of the people I contacted when I was a police officer had already done something wrong, whether it's speeding, domestic, DUI, things like that. Most of the people I dealt with had already committed a violation. A lot of times I'm just out there, 90% of the people I talk to are just actively fishing or hunting, and I check their license, get to see how they're doing, see grandmas and grandpas taking kids out, things like that. So I can deal with a little bit better a portion of the population.
Yeah, it's funny. We tell a little story here on Mark Allen's One-on-One, because I don't get a chance to tell stories very often. How Jeremy and I actually met. It was a number of years ago. I was at a pond, and I had a bucket of fish, and I was walking up the pond from the deck, and here came Jeremy, and Jeremy said, "Hey, can I see your license?" Remember this? He said, "Can I see your license?" And I said, "For what?" He said, "For fishing." I said, "These fish aren't ordinary fish." I said, "What's your name?" He said, "My name's Jeremy Winterovich. Can I see your license?" I said, "Jeremy," they're magical fish. They do what I ask them to do." Jeremy kind of chuckled and said, "I need your license." I said, "No, seriously, they can do special things." He said, "Well, let me see." So we walked down to the edge of the water, and I poured them in the water, and we watched them as they swam away, and I set the bucket down, and Jeremy said, "Okay, all right, what are they going to do something? Where are the fish?" I said, "What fish?"
I recall this.
He recalls this.
Yeah.
So that's how we got our first meeting.
Yes.
So you get a chance to meet people, you get outdoors. Is that one of the best parts about it, just being out in nature and seeing people and talking to people?
It is. It's nice. Minnesota has great recreational opportunities. We're the only area of the state that has an elk season. We had 40-some elk tags this year, so you could apply for that. We have decent bear hunting, decent duck hunting at Thief Lake, Roseau River WMA. Two of the big five, we have Upper Red Lake and Lake of the Woods for walleye fishing. And deer hunting is pretty much second to none for our area. We've got a lot of deer hunting and a lot of state property, wildlife management areas that allow people to have a place to go hunt. Down in the Southwest, they have very little state land. So if you don't know somebody, you have a hard time finding a nice place to hunt.
What's the toughest part about being a conservation officer?
I guess conservation officer in your hometown is maybe finding some of the folks that that are doing things that they know they shouldn't be doing. That's a little bit tougher, but I try to be as fair as I can. Nobody gets any special treatment. But another one, the good things about being a conservation officer, not the hard part, but this is a good part, is I get to deal with the youth in our youth programs. Firearm safety, ATV safety, snowmobile safety. So I get to talk to the kids so they get to see me more as a person and tell them why we have the laws. Just not, this is what the laws are. I tell them why we have them, whether it's safety or identification for machines with registration and things like that. So I get to talk to the kids and then try to instill in them some better values so that we do what's right, not just what is easiest.
It's got to be tough with the DNR, because got to be honest, here in northwestern Minnesota, not everybody likes the DNR, but you don't
No.
make the laws, you're just here to enforce them.
Correct. So the only person that they dislike more than the police is the conservation officer, because we're the fun police. And then there is kind of a stigma with game and fish violations. So if Mark gets caught speeding 3 times on the way to Grand Forks, is he going to be known as Mark the Speeder? Probably not. But if I catch him one time poaching at night, for the rest of his life, he's going to be known as Mark the Poacher.
Yeah.
So there's a stigma that stays with you that people don't want to get game and fish violations.
That's probably true. You've been at what, 17 years? 16,
Yep, I started actually here in 2004. So law enforcement, I started in '98 as a police officer. A couple of years there in Grand Forks, 4 years in East Grand Forks, and then 2004 I went to the training academy down in Camp Ripley. So I had a 13-week program there where I learned all the things how to be a conservation officer, tell this duck from that duck, things like that.
Which isn't easy.
No, it actually is. One of the tougher parts about my job is after a dog has chewed on it and has been in the mud, and now I have to identify whether it's a hen or Drake mallard, things like that. But then you go to a training program called FTO, Field Training, with FTO, a Field Training Officer. And that's a 16-week program where you go to different parts of the state and work with a seasoned officer out in the public, and slowly, gradually, they put you up from 25% to 50 to 75 to 100% of doing the work. And then that guy evaluates you and trains you on the techniques that we need to do to be a good conservation officer.
Now, being that you've been into it a number of years, do you have any good stories, funny stories, or memorable things that you've either come across or seen in the last 17 years?
You know, there's a lot of these books that are made. You know, Tom Chapin has one, and Bill Calise has one from our Minnesota Game Wardens. I have a few stories, you know, that I would think would probably be, you know, book worthy, things like that. Just recently, we did have a case that was brought up into the news where an individual was fishing on Lake of the Woods, and they had too many fish, he and his son. Through our investigation, we realized that they had a lot more than they probably should have. And when it all said and done, we got back to his vehicle, and he actually tried to bribe myself and my two other officers with money. Took money out, actually found out $100 bills, was going to try to pay his way out of this one. Luckily, we didn't take it, of course, and unlucky for him is we stayed with it and found the fish, and he was in possession of 53 walleyes, he and his son. So quite a bit over.
Do you guys have body cameras?
We do not. It's actually one of our policies that we don't have the body camera. And if we do have to record one of our partners or something along those lines, we have to say, hey, I'll be recording now. It's just in our policy so that we don't have people recording other folks in their office or something like that. Okay. So our policy is that we don't record without the other officer knowing, but we don't have body cameras. It's tough for us if we're out on a snowmobile. 20 below, the body camera is not going to be out on the outside of our...
You're outdoors more, the elements more.
And I've dropped many pens, flashlights and things into Lake of the Woods. I know the body camera would just probably be the next thing that would fall in there. So they've looked into a couple other things, but right now we don't have body cameras, and it's just basically because of the nature of our job. On four-wheelers wouldn't work real well. Snowmobiles, working out in the cold, so it's a little bit tougher.
Okay, and finally, as a CO, you spend a lot of time outdoors. What's your favorite time of the year? What's the best season, or either hunting or season weather-wise, or what's the best out there?
So I like the fall. The fall is great, and it starts with bear season. You know, bear season September 1st. You get into early goose, gets into archery and small game opener, gets into duck opener, gets into deer season, gets into muzzleloader, gets into ice fishing. So from bear season on, the starting of bear baiting actually in August till about the first of the year. It's a pretty busy time.
And a good time.
Yeah, it is. It's good. You get to be out and enjoy the outdoors. Elk season is in there. I mean, it's a good time. I enjoy what I do.
All right. Jeremy Winorovich, you can hear him on KTRF radio during open line programs. We have him on a number of times, and especially in the fall when there is hunting. So if you have questions, you can either call the DNR, call Jeremy. Now you know what he looks like, or listen to KTRF. Jeremy, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it. In the great outdoors.
Okay, thanks for having me on.
You like the hat?
I do.
It's a good hat. All right. That's One-on-One with Mark Allen.